Ian and Lisa. Mornings on CFAX 1070. Remember, you have us in the palm of your hand. For listeners on the go, listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
Steve Mossop, Executive Vice President of Western Canada for Leger, is here. They're the pollsters that just dropped, I think, what is like the first BC political poll to cover the period since the BC Conservative Party got a new leader last weekend in Carrie Lynn Findlay. Steve Mossop, always great to talk to you about BC politics. How you doing?
Excellent, Ryan. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great to get you here. So first off, let's just go over the top line numbers again for people. What did you find in this poll?
Yeah, as we like to say in pollsters' worlds, if an election were held tomorrow, who would you vote for? And we, for the first time, really ever, we have the Conservatives ahead of the NDP, just by a sliver, 45% to 41%. Greens are way down the list at 8%, and that is the status of where we sit today.
Okay, so BC Conservatives pulling ahead by 4 points at 45% over that 41% for the David Eby NDP, 8% for the Greens. Now, this, of course, right after a new leader for the BC Conservative Party. Let's put some context behind these numbers. Is that a normal thing? Do you often see a party gets a new leader, they get a bit of a bump in the polls?
Let's back it up, because this trend's been happening for several months. You know, you have to go back to October of last year when the Conservatives were in a bit of trouble with all the drama around Rustad and his departure. Steadily, before we even see a leader come into play, we've seen increases. It went from 38 to 40%, and now 41, then 45. And so, yes, there is a bump from the new leader, but the trend has been happening since the 8-point increase since the low that they experienced back in October.
So this is maybe not just a little blip because of a bit of excitement around a new leader. This has been the trend. So where does it go from here, you think? Because we've got this new BC Conservative leader who is a fairly new figure, I think, at least in the world of BC politics. Long history as a member of Stephen Harper's federal government. But, you know, in BC politics, she's not a sitting MLA yet. She still has a little bit of, I think, defining of herself to do. And the other sides in this, the NDP are certainly trying to define her as well as a socially conservative, too far to the right for a BC kind of person. At least that's the way they're putting her. Where do you think the BC Conservatives go from here? What are their strategies here, you think?
It's as much as a story of decline of the NDP. So similarly, back in October, we had a peak number for the NDP at 48%, and they've gone steadily down in every poll that we've done since then. It's a 7-point drop on their numbers, and a steady erosion of Eby's approval numbers. So even without the new leader, this would have happened, and we may have even seen the Conservatives pop ahead of the NDP just by the demise of the NDP's, rough patch, if you will, around deficits, around drip, around the economy, around tariffs. It's just a steady stream of sort of bad news on the NDP front. But that being said, so where does it go from here? The thing is with Findlay is nobody knows her. Like, even in the poll, only about half of British Columbians were aware that she had won the race. And when you look at the overall awareness of kind of who she is, it's really only 20%, 26% of British Columbians say that they're familiar with her. 28% have heard of her by name only, and 43% of the folks we polled said they'd never even heard of her before they talked to us in the survey. So she has a long way to go just in general awareness, and that's the starting point.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's on that side. And with the NDP, as you mentioned, this is as much a story of softening support for them as it is growing support for the Conservatives. What do you think they've got ahead of them as far as trying to dig themselves out of this?
Well, the Indigenous controversies that we've seen over the last several months are not going to go away. It just doesn't change. There's no catalyst in the horizon that's going to see that improve. So NDP has got its work cut out. And same with the economy. Technically we're arguing whether we're in a recession or not. That impacts the numbers. And the deficits, which people didn't seem to care about several months ago, is now starting to hit the radar. And it's becoming an issue that British Columbians are very concerned over. So that's the issue on the NDP side. On the Conservative side, they have to again, bring awareness up to Finlay, and they have to paint her as a moderate, and that's also probably their biggest Achilles heel, is you've already seen the NDP making jabs at her about her racist comments or her belief systems. She's vulnerable there, because you saw in the federal election that anybody who's painted even close to being Trump-like will just get decimated in the polls when it comes to Election Day, and that's what happened with Poilievre, and maybe it could happen to Finlay.
New poll out from Leger suggesting the BC Conservatives have taken a narrow lead in support over the BC NDP, the government, with 45% of decided voters saying if an election were held today, they'd be voting blue. So that's the picture. Steve Mossop, Executive Vice President with Western Canada for Leger. Thank you for joining us. Always great to talk numbers with you.
Thank you. Well, stay tuned for the next one.